The streets of south-central LA were a concrete jungle. They were divided by colors, red and blue. This wasn't about fashion sense, it was about the Bloods and the Crips. Two gangs locked in a rivalry older than some of their members. The Bloods, draped in red, were known for their fierce loyalty. They protected their turf with a passion that could melt asphalt. The Crips, decked out in blue, were their equal and opposite force. They were a whirlwind of attitude, ready to throw down at a moment's notice. Respect was everything. Stepping on the wrong crack in the sidewalk could be a serious misstep. Wearing the wrong color? Don't even think about it. These streets breathed tension, the air crackled with it, and nobody messed with the unwritten rules. Nobody, that is, until Chad showed up. Chad was about as out of place in South Central as a penguin in a sauna. Picture a guy who thought gangster rap was about cars. He was sporting cargo shorts and sandals, his socks pulled way up. This wasn't irony. This was Chad. He'd come to LA to visit his Aunt Gladys, who conveniently forgot to mention her neighborhood's unique social dynamics. So there he was, a walking, talking culture clash, wandering into the middle of a turf war with a fanny pack and a map that looked older than Aunt Gladys herself. Chad saw a group of guys in red hanging out on a street corner. To him, they were just dudes enjoying the sunshine. He ambled over, a big, goofy grin on his face.
Hey fellas, mind if I ask for directions?
The Bloods stared at him like he'd just landed from Mars. And in that moment, something shifted. It started with a snicker, then a full-blown guffaw. Chad, completely oblivious, just blinked. The Crips, watching from across the street, were just as baffled. They'd seen a lot of things, but a clueless white guy in tube socks chatting up the Bloods like they were long-lost pals was a new one. Soon they were laughing too, the sound echoing through the streets. Now, laughter is a funny thing. It's contagious, it breaks down walls. And in this case, it created a bridge between two groups who'd sworn to be enemies forever. It turned out both the Bloods and the Crips found Chad equally hilarious. They invited him to join them, more for the entertainment value than anything else. Chad, thinking he'd made some new friends, happily agreed.
Gotta keep my energy up.
He pulled out a giant bag of chicken nuggets from his fanny pack and started offering them around. Word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. There's this white dude hanging out with the Bloods and the Crips and they're all eating chicken nuggets. It was the talk of every street corner, every basketball court. The situation was too bizarre, too funny to ignore. People started showing up just to witness the spectacle firsthand. And the more they watched Chad trying to learn gang signs that looked more like awkward dance moves, suggesting they all go see a movie together, a romantic comedy no less, the more they couldn't help but laugh. The tension that had gripped the neighborhood for so long began to ease. People started talking to each other, sharing stories, realizing that maybe, just maybe, they weren't so different after all. Except for Chad, of course. He was one of a kind. One day, Chad, in his infinite wisdom, decided that the Bloods and the Crips needed a fashion makeover.
Red and blue are cool and all, but wouldn't it be even cooler if you guys mixed it up a bit?
And so began Operation Makeover, with Chad as the self-proclaimed fashion guru. Section 5, turf war turned talent show. Laughter knows no colors, his weapon of choice, tie-dye, lots and lots of tie-dye.
I bought out every fabric dye within a 10-mile radius and set up shop in Aunt Gladys's garage.
Soon the streets of South Central were awash in a kaleidoscope of colors as the Bloods and the Crips sported their new tie-dye creations, looking like walking, talking works of abstract art.
The absurdity of it all reached a peak when Chad organized a South Central Unity talent show.
He envisioned it as a grand display of peace and harmony, where the Bloods and the Crips would showcase their hidden talents.
The reality was even more entertaining. There was Big Tony, the most feared enforcer in the Bloods, reciting Shakespearean sonnets with surprising sensitivity. Little D from the Crips brought the house down with his stand-up routine, filled with jokes about life on the streets. Section 6, a day at the beach, sandcastles and shared histories. And then there was Chad, of course, who insisted on performing an interpretive dance to his favorite Celine Dion song.
Let's just say it was an experience that left the audience speechless for once.
But the most remarkable thing wasn't the individual acts. It was the atmosphere. The air buzzed not with tension but with shared laughter and a sense of community. The Bloods were cheering for the Crips, and vice versa. Even Aunt Gladys was impressed, and that woman had seen it all.
Chad, being Chad, decided our newfound unity needed a field trip.
His idea? A day at the beach, a concept that was met with equal parts confusion and intrigue from his new friends.
The beach wasn't exactly known as neutral territory, but with Chad leading the charge, anything seemed possible. And so they piled into a convoy of beat-up cars and headed for the coast, a motley crew of Bloods, Crips, and one very enthusiastic white dude with a sunburn already forming on his nose. The sight of them, former rivals now sharing coolers, building sandcastles, and teaching Chad how to surf, with limited success, it must be said, was a sight to behold. Section 7, Big Tony's BBQ, breaking bread and stereotypes. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the sand, stories were shared, laughter echoed, and friendships deepened. They discovered shared dreams, hidden hurts, and the realization that beneath the colors and the history, they were all just young men trying to find their place in the world.
The aroma of barbecue sauce and charcoal filled the air as Big Tony, the mastermind behind the grill, flipped burgers and hot dogs with the precision of a seasoned chef.
Big Tony's BBQs had become a weekly tradition, a testament to the unlikely bond forged between former rivals.
What started as a tentative gathering had transformed into a full-blown neighborhood feast. Folding tables groaned under the weight of potato salad, collard greens, and enough fried chicken to feed a small army.
Music pulsed from a boombox, a mix of hip-hop, soul, and much to everyone's surprise, Chad's secret stash of 80s pop. Section 8. The accidental hero Chad's unintentional act of bravery. As they ate, laughed, and shared stories, the invisible barriers that had separated them for so long crumbled away. They discovered common ground, shared dreams, and, well, a mutual love for Big Tony's secret barbecue sauce recipe. But it was during one such BBQ that their newfound unity was put to the test. A group of outsiders, troublemakers from a neighboring town, rolled into South Central looking for trouble. They were bigger, they were bolder, and they had no idea who they were dealing with. They underestimated Chad.
Hey guys, welcome to the neighborhood. You just missed the potato salad, but there's plenty of burgers left.
Seeing the commotion, Chad, in his infinite naivete, assumed it was a friendly welcoming committee. He rushed towards the troublemakers, a huge grin plastered on his face. The troublemakers were so taken aback by Chad's oblivious enthusiasm, so confused by the sight of Bloods and Crips standing shoulder to shoulder, that they did the only sensible thing. They turned tail and ran. Section 9, Unity Day. Celebrating new beginnings and lasting bonds. News of Chad's heroic stand spread like wildfire, becoming the stuff of legends. It cemented his status as the unlikely mascot of their newfound unity. In honor of their unlikely peacemaker, they decided to make it official. They called it Unity Day, a day to celebrate their newfound peace and the man who, without even realizing it, had brought them together. The streets that were once battlegrounds were now alive with music, dancing, and the kind of joy that could only come from healing old wounds and embracing new beginnings. There were basketball games where former rivals played on the same team, their red and blue colors blending together in a blur of athleticism and camaraderie. There were cookouts where families who had never shared a meal together broke bread and shared laughter. Section 10, Beyond the Colors. Realizing the power of understanding, and at the center of it all was Chad, the clueless white dude who somehow managed to achieve what years of animosity and bloodshed couldn't, bringing peace to South Central. He was hoisted onto shoulders, his name chanted like a conquering hero, a bemused smile on his face as he accepted their accolades with a humble, "Aw, shucks, it was nothing really." But it was everything. Chad, in his own bumbling way, had shown them the power of laughter, the importance of looking beyond appearances, and the possibility of finding friendship in the most unexpected places. He had reminded them that beneath the colors, the rivalries, and the pain, they were all connected, all part of something bigger than themselves. The story of the Bloods, the Crips, and the white dude named Chad became a legend whispered on street corners and shared in hushed tones. It became a reminder that change is possible, that hope can bloom in the most unlikely of places, and that sometimes all it takes is a little bit of laughter to bridge even the widest divides. Section 11. Epilogue, An Unlikely Legacy. Chad eventually returned to his own life, none the wiser of the profound impact he'd had on South Central. He went back to his cargo shorts, his tube socks, and his Celine Dion albums, leaving behind a legacy of unity that would forever be etched in the heart of the neighborhood. And as for the Bloods and the Crips, they learned that their shared laughter was more powerful than their differences. They discovered that friendship could blossom in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the greatest act of courage is extending a hand, not a fist. The streets of South Central were never quite the same. They were no longer defined by the stark lines of red and blue, but by the vibrant hues of unity, laughter, and the enduring spirit of a community that dared to choose peace over conflict, friendship over fear, and a goofy white dude named Chad as their unlikely hero.